In this episode of the Terry Holland Show, I sit down with Andrea Cameron of Fashion Your Life. She's a fashion designer, a personal brand stylist, entrepreneur, coach, facilitator, educator, change maker, cancer survivor, and healer. She has over 20 years of experience working within the fashion industry as a designer, developer, fit tech, production manager, and many, many other roles. And in this episode, we're talking about how do you find your personal style, how that reflects in your brand, and also how fashion has really changed throughout the pandemic. So this is a great episode. I had so much fun talking with Andrea, and I know you're going to like it too. Welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming on to talk about fashion.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, I've been so excited to have you on. This has been a topic on my mind lately of how we dress, how we represent ourselves through our clothing. And so I was very excited that you were willing to come on and chat with me today about this topic, and a little nervous. I was like, what am I going to wear?
Right? Thank you for having me. That is actually a very common response to talking or meeting somebody who's in fashion and style. And that's exactly why I do what I do, because I remove that.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. I love that. So I'm always curious about how people get into what they're doing, like why you do what you do.
Yeah.
So why don't we just start there? How did you get into the fashion industry, and why do you do this?
Okay, this is a bit of a story, so I'll try and be as succinct as possible.
We like stories. It's all good.
Okay. Yes. So I've been sewing since I was old enough to hold a needle, and shopping since I was old enough to walk. That's literally true for me. So by the time I was 15, I was deciding what to do with my life, and I had made the decision. It was between fashion and psychology. And I had already at that point, anytime there was a sewing class, I was in it. Anytime there was a chance to be creative, upcycle something, create a pattern, anything like that, I did it.
Oh.
And so fashion or psychology? Psychology, because I love understanding people. I love observing people. And when I was younger, I remember, and this is actually it's interestingly a very common experience with young women. I was sitting on my bed with my girlfriends. We were flipping through a fashion magazine, and they were commenting like, oh, I wish I looked like her. Oh, I wish I had that. Oh, right. Like comparing themselves to the models in the magazines. And I just remember feeling like I want to tell them that they are amazing and beautiful just the way they are. But I was so shy at that point, right? And I've tried this in my adult years, and now I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, if they're in that position of comparing themselves, is not going to land. So it doesn't really help to be like, but you're perfect just the way you are. It's like the person has to get it. So for me, that was a real moment of fashion or psychology, because I wanted to understand why people thought that way about themselves. I chose fashion for a number of reasons, but it was ultimately, it was a bit of a fear-based decision, I'll be honest, because I didn't want to go to university for 4 years.
Oh, fair enough.
And I was like, and full circle moment, I'm really happy I didn't, because if I had gone into psychology, that's a whole industry that has there's all kinds of things going on there, and I'm not poo-pooing the industry. It's just only one piece of that puzzle. So if I was in that, I wouldn't have been happy anyway. So I went into fashion, and I wanted to start my own business right away, right out of college. I went and studied fashion design in Montreal at LaSalle College. I wanted to start my own business right away, but again, fear, right? I had to go get a job. So I went and got a job in the industry I was trained in fashion. And I had over a 20-year career in that industry. And I worked all across Canada. I worked in Montreal. I worked in Winnipeg. I worked in Vancouver. I worked here on the island. And and pretty much any position you can think of, I did it because I'm a quick learner and I like to try new things. And all that time I've kept my own kind of side, like design, custom design and alterations. And it's interesting now. I'm like, now that I've had my business for a few years, I'm like, oh, I actually know why I didn't start a business right out of college. A, I wouldn't have all the experience and expertise I have now, but B, there was no examples of people doing what I wanted to do. So
right.
I didn't believe in just creating a collection and throwing it out there in hopes that it would sell and having to deal with the aftermath. That wasn't what I have ever wanted to do. And that was the only thing I knew was possible when I graduated college. So long answer.
Perfect. So can you tell us a little bit about your business? So Fashion Your Life, what do you do?
Yeah.
What is it all about?
I'm the director of style and design. And so Fashion Your Life was born out of a Venn diagram of fashion and style is one, right? Your life and your business is another, like what you do. And then who you are is the other piece of that. So Fashion Your Life is right in the middle of those three things.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it came from. And it's ultimately fashioning your life, right? If you think of where that hits and making choices that work for you and who you are at your core, as opposed to what's being thrown at you.
Right. So how do we begin to do that? So, for example, like a lot of the people listening are entrepreneurs and business professionals, and how do we, because I'm asking for me too, how do we begin to establish our own style and in a way that represents who we are professionally and personally?
Yeah. So first, understand that style isn't just skin deep, right? Like it's not just about the clothes. Your style is like how you talk, how you move, what you choose to do, how you book your appointments. Like all of these things are style indicators. So style is a very broad thing. That's why I apply it to your fashion, what you do, but also who you are. So who you are is the most important indicators. So your personality and your preferences, right? Okay. So you want to pay attention to these things and look for the patterns that are in there. And personality and preferences is kind of like the broad thing, and really take a holistic view. So I take a holistic view with how I work and looking at different areas and looking for themes and common patterns.
Cool.
But does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it does. It really does. So I think like for myself, where I get stuck is I know what I like. And so I'll buy like this shirt. I have 4 of them.
Right.
And I find like as I've gotten a little bit older, I want less choice in my wardrobe and just very streamlined. So but I feel like on the other side of that, it looks like I'm always wearing the same thing, which I'm okay with because I'm always wearing the same thing, but it's like a uniform.
That's actually beneficial because then you are more memorable.
Oh, I like that. That is a nice reframe.
So if you think of like Steve Jobs, right?
Yeah.
He wore the same thing every day.
Yes.
Part of it was for maximization and like saving time and decision-making energy, but he's also very memorable.
Yes.
Right. So if you're building a personal brand, you want to be memorable.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So I feel much better about that. Thank you.
Yes.
Do you find, I'm just kind of curious about this. Have you found that over the last couple of years, being in a pandemic, has that changed people's personal style and how they're,
So, what I have seen is the biggest shift with COVID has been at the beginning of COVID, everybody's in their PJs and joking about it.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the first stage. Second stage, everybody was buying new comfy clothes. So jogging pants, sweatshirts, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now people are looking at those uniforms, right? So you talk about this being your uniform, but people were in that mode in a different way before COVID. And I'll come back to full circle this. But if you think of, like, I worked in corporate, like, office space, and like if you think of dress codes and showing up in an office environment, they need to be rewritten, right? Like they just shouldn't exist. Honestly, that's my honest take. But we look at them, we make sure we're not, whatever. But then we show up at the office and we look at what everybody else is wearing, and typically we fall into a pattern of wearing what everybody else is wearing in some way or another, and we all look alike. Right. So that's the like corporate office uniform. For a lot of women, it was like a nice polyester printed blouse and like polyester blend pant. Nothing wrong with that, right? But it didn't have a lot of personality, didn't have a lot of like personal flair. And that's typically what was happening in the office. And my mind just blanked, and I was trying to remember, what was the original question?
Oh, how the pandemic has sort of influenced people's fashion.
How it has changed. Yes. So that was happening before the pandemic, right? And people were just kind of in this automatic mode, not really thinking about their style. So we had this PJs, we went into comfy clothes. It was really hard to find anything fashionable. The stuff that is out there is a bit more outrageous, because what's been happening is people have actually been taking the time or experimenting with their styles, and even brands have been creating more unique things.
Cool.
So that's been happening in tandem. And now there's this flux of people who are like, what do I do with all these old uniform office clothes that I don't even want to put them on my body? Like, even if they fit, even if I still like them, it just brings us back to a different time and place, and we're not that person anymore, right? So that's kind of the bigger picture of what's been happening with fashion and clothing, at least from a personal level, because of COVID.
Wow. Yeah. I find for myself and a lot of my clients, it's like, I know how to dress from here up now.
Yeah.
Because my whole world is Zoom. So I'm like, I always look good from here up. And then it's when I have to go in public, I really think about like
pants and shoes.
Yes. I'm like, what pants do I have? Because I'm like, I never did the pajama thing, like dressing for success and showing up.
Nice.
But, definitely went to more comfy.
Yeah.
And like got used to just wearing my jeans every day and not dressing.
Yeah. So that's the other trend that I'm seeing is like workwear isn't workwear anymore. It has to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always been a non-negotiable for me and my clients. Like, comfort has always been key, but now people are like, oh, I can actually be comfortable and look nice and express my style. Like, yeah, you can.
Yeah. Yes, that's what I'm finding a lot of. But then if I have to dress up for something, I don't like, it's like I've lost that sense of what do I wear?
Right. Have you lost your sense of what to wear, or have you lost I should wear this?
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Right.
I have a closet full of beautiful dresses that I used to speak in when I would do public speaking. And now I look at them and I'm like, no, not feeling it.
Were they like shift dresses? Like,
yeah. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, not into them. Or even, and this hurts me to say, but even all my high heels, now I'm just like, I just want to put on my vesties and I'm good. My chiropractor will love hearing that.
Right. And
yeah.
Some women actually love heels. Like I've worked with people that are like, I have to have my heels. And I'm like, cool, great. That's easy. Right.
Yeah.
Other women have been like, oh, I never want to wear them again. I have to celebrate it because it was one of those like shoulds or have tos or whatever. Right. And it's just, No.
Yeah.
Just
And for
no.
me, it was always like, I love them and I still love them. I love looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
The thought of wearing them
Mm-hmm.
has changed.
Yeah.
And even I was speaking in public for the first time, I guess the end of August.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid of speaking in front of a group live for the first time in 2 years. I was afraid of speaking in front of them wearing heels and not looking like I was like a baby deer learning to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Confident.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed. It's changed me.
Yeah. And because of that, right? Like that's changed. My cat has joined us and he's being a little booger. Get down, get down. So that's like you want to have maybe 1 or 2 pairs that you really, really love that are actually comfortable, that you feel confident walking in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. As opposed to like 5, 10, 15, 20, however many pairs. Like it's different for everyone.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. How does, when you're working with your clients, how do you find, or do you find this, that how they present themselves in business, like changes based on what they're wearing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's called the psychology of fashion, clothing, like fashion psychology. It is, it is absolutely like you said it, right? You want to dress you didn't go the PJ route because you want to dress, or you want to like dress for the job you want. You want to,
Right.
It's literally like, if you put on a pair of jeans versus a pencil skirt, let's use those two, for example, very different moods, flavors, very different ways that we feel in each of those things. So naturally, we're going to carry ourselves more casually when we're wearing the jeans. We're going to be more casual. We're going to say more casual things. When we throw on a pencil skirt, we're like, oh, we feel a little bit more feminine. We feel a little bit more fancy. We feel a little bit more exposed even, right? Like flirty.
Yep.
So very, very different feels. And that difference might be very subtle, right? Because ultimately you're the same person. But those subtleties are what people are picking up on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that with my clients, it's, it brings to mind, I was training a group of financial professionals a few years ago, and all in their first 2 years of business. There was one guy that was just crushing it. And he always dressed in a suit. His shirt always looked like pressed and impeccable, cufflinks, shoes polished, like pocket square, the whole everything, head to toe.
Yeah.
And it was so fascinating in this group because people were like, oh, how come everyone cancels appointments on me, was one of the complaints. But no one ever canceled an appointment on him. People took him seriously, and they treated
he took himself seriously.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one of the challenges I find with my clients, is like getting through that. We want to say what you wear doesn't matter, in a sense. Like people want to say, oh, it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
It doesn't. It's interesting because until you get it, like it really is, it has to matter to you. You have to actually choose it. And until you get that, like, I would even say I just recently got it because my style is very casual in general. Like this is quite it's a vintage silk blouse, but it's still quite casual, right? Like, cause it's a loose fit, it's an open neck. So it gives me that casual bit of feel. Like I want to show that I'm approachable, right?
Right.
So that's really important to me. So like having something like this, but it's silk and it's vintage and it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. But so like that combination of that casual and that style, it matters. And yeah, until you get it. And that's what I mean by all these there's indicators about your personality and your preferences. So casual is important for me. One of the things that, like you had said at the beginning, is the industry is known I'll just throw this word out there and then just let it go. But like it's a very pretentious industry, right? It's a very image-based industry. It's all about how you look. And honestly, the industry is very like, buy more, buy more, buy more, buy more, because it doesn't want it. The industry does not want you to know who you are, because when you know who you are, you buy less stuff.
Oh, that just, yeah, that just hit home. That is so true.
Right.
Never thought of that.
When you know who you are, you can go out there and be like, this is exactly what I need. I'm going to go look for it. I'm going to find it. I'm going to buy it. It's mine. Versus when you don't, it's like, and this was my story, like in the industry, every time I worked for a different brand, my wardrobe turned into a piece of that brand store, right? I went through this over and over and over again. It wasn't until I got out of the industry that I got out of that habit. And I was just like, oh, wait, I know who I am. I know my style. Let's do that. So now I get to like pick and choose, and I know things about my style. So when I see something, I know that I should invest in that in this moment or not.
Oh, I love that. And that, I think, that sort of leads me to what a question or ask you about sustainable wardrobes, because I remember years ago, I read a book by Kevin O'Leary, and one of his finance tips was to invest in high quality pieces of clothing that are timeless and will last, instead of like the fast fashion. And like,
so my reaction
saves us money, like you're investing in yourself. So so when it comes to like a sustainable wardrobe, like, should we be investing in the more expensive pieces? Should we be buying what do we do?
Yeah. So everyone's at a different place, right? So I'm like, I'm very adverse to fast fashion. I went through the fast fashion, like, give me all the things. And then I had all these things. And I'm like, what am I doing with all these things? I went through that myself. So I know, I've been there, and I got myself out of it with the way I work. So I poo-poo it at the same time, because everybody's at a different place. Sometimes you have to buy something in a fast fashion brand to get to where you need to be, because you don't necessarily have $200 to invest in those beautiful dress pants. You only have $40, right? So sometimes I'm not going to poo-poo it. Everyone's at a different stage. So buying high quality, sustainable brands is great, right? It would be wonderful if everybody bought locally made, sustainable fabrics, yada, 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 fair trade, all of these things. There's all kinds of different criteria to look for in the actual garment. But the most sustainable thing you can do is wear what's already in your closet.
Oh, yeah, good call.
Right? And if it's not quite where you want it to be, right? You're like, oh, I have this wonderful thing. I don't wear it. I don't know why I don't wear it, right? Like, sometimes the middle ground there. So like, wear what's already in your closet, buy sustainable brands, high quality. The middle ground is to get things altered.
Oh, yeah.
So even if it's something, that you used to wear, you don't, whatever it is, often a simple alteration can make it perfect. And then also buying secondhand. So consignment stores, thrift stores, vintage stores, all of these are great. Buy and sell markets like Marketplace, Garage Sale, all those things are great. Poshmark, Etsy. Etsy is either secondhand or handmade, usually. Usually.
Yeah. So if you had like one tip for people who are listening, who are thinking like they want to maybe like up level their style a bit, or begin to explore their personal style, what would be the one place they should start?
Pay attention to what you like.
Nice.
Period.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then when you're wearing it, you're not going to like yourself, right?
That is a great tip. And I know you have a couple different ways that people can work with you. So can you tell us a little bit about what you offer, your one-on-one, and then also your mastermind, which sounds
Yay, I'm so excited. So I do one-on-one fashion consultation where I go into your wardrobe and basically just reorganize it, go through everything, get you to try stuff on, come up with new looks, get rid of stuff, alter stuff, whatever you need, right? Like it's a wardrobe overhaul. And then I also, a part of that is to take you shopping in your local area. So I'm on the island. I'm currently traveling within Canada. So, Vancouver is super easy for me to go to. I was just there last week with a client. So if that's something that's of interest, I have different package offerings, but I also do custom quotes. So there's two ways to go about it there. Great. And secondly, my mastermind. Yeah. So when I shared what Fashion Your Life is, it's that trifecta is what the mastermind is all about. So it's like, because I went through it myself, and I'm just like, oh, I'm finally at this place where I know what I'm doing. Maybe do any of us really ever know what we're doing, right? But I'm at this place where I'm like, oh, okay, it's clear, it's easy. I've learned all of these things, and I want to be in a small mastermind group of women, service-based businesses who just want to get super clear and up-level their style of how they do their business. So literally, like, if you're still trying all these different things, right, and you're not clear as to how's the best way for you to do it, right. So we often hear about the one thing. This book has been quoted to me so many times in the past couple of weeks, and I always thought the one thing had to be one offer or one client or one, right, like one thing. It doesn't. It doesn't. It can be the one offer, but I'm a multi-potentialite, so that's never sat well with me. Right. So the one thing for me is that every offer I have with Fashion Your Life is about consuming less and expressing more.
Nice.
So the business style mastermind, I'm your fashion and style expert in that mastermind. And I have a bunch of subject matter experts. I'm waiting to see what people need in the mastermind to pull in the different subject matter experts, but I'm basically sharing my process of how to really get to that core of who you are so that you're making decisions from that place as opposed to letting the outside influence you. It's the exact same thing with fashion. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing. And so I will put all of your links in the show notes so you guys can check out there.
Yes. And there's a wait list for the mastermind. So just like fill that out and I'll get in touch with you.
Excellent. And when does it start? Starting in January?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. I'm going to be checking it out because that sounds really exciting. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Talking fashion. This was a lot of fun.
Anytime.
Thank you.